Hi, welcome back. I hope you had a wonderful week and you're ready for another video. We finalized our series about the gastronomy and the Portuguese gastronomy more specifically. And this month we go back to aviation and the aviation industry. I know that if you probably in this sector, you are already missing your videos about aviation. I was too. So today we are talking about something that is been on the news, especially here in Australia, and a lot of countries are considering it, which is the bubbles, the travel bubbles between countries. Australia already has one between Australia and New Zealand, and is considering opening another one with Singapore. So in this talk, we are going to explore the travel bubbles and see what positives and negatives they may bring. So stick around. Let's talk. Travel bubbles are a concept that was created in this COVID era, and it is mainly like an exclusion zone that is created between countries. So certain countries where the numbers of cases are extremely low are allowing traveling between themselves, um, obviously according to the rules and um, provided that the number of cases are still low and travel offers minimal risks. Uh, as I said, Australia and New Zealand have already signed a travel bubble, and Australia is considering to do the same with Singapore. I think vaccination will have a very important role in these travel bubbles. I know that in Europe this does not apply because basically traveling has been happening all along the pandemic. So, for example, what one of the biggest positives of a travel bubble is that allows some traveling. So if two countries may travel between themselves, so like in Australia and New Zealand, that will be a positive in both sides, so for both countries, once it allows people to do some traveling. For example, Aussies can now go on holidays to New Zealand, as well as New Zealanders can come on holidays to Australia. That wasn't allowed through the whole duration of the pandemic because of safety. So now it's possible. So it's a way of encouraging some tourism, and of course helping the tourism industry and the aviation industry to start recovering from this horrible pandemic. It also helps in another sector, the education sector. I have spoken about this before. International students are a huge um, bulk of the revenue for universities in Australia, and every year we have a huge amount of international students coming to our country to study. So, with the pandemic and the closure of our international borders, this lack of international students ended up affecting not only one sector, which is directly the aviation um, and the education, but for example, the real estate as well, since properties that used to be in high demand are now empty looking for tenants. So the fact that the international students are no longer coming to Australia because the international borders are closed are affecting multiple sectors. So if a travel bubble is set up, that means that these students may start coming and these sectors may start going back to normal slowly, slowly. Of course, that needs to be set up and rules have to be in place. And vaccination, in my view, plays a huge part in the success of this program. If the populations of the countries that are willing to sign for these bubbles are vaccinated, and Singapore has already signaled Australia that they are happy to do a bubble with Australia, provided that both countries have a higher number of the population vaccinated, because this is a crucial step to have a safety traveling between countries, because obviously if you're going to allow people, even if they provide you with a negative test, it has already been provided that in certain strains of the virus, especially with this later Delta virus, um, it may happen that you may have a negative test today, and tomorrow or after tomorrow you may test positive. So you could, for example, test negative before leaving Singapore or New Zealand, and then 2 days in your quarantine period in Australia, you could test positive, and that would trigger an issue. So I think vaccination is essential. Another positive thing, obviously, it's the positive aspect for the tourism and aviation industry, because with more tourists means more flights, and more flights means more money. So if we allow these bubbles to happen and we start signing more agreements for more bubbles with more countries, then we have more options for traveling. So it not only benefits the Australians to travel abroad and visit other countries, so it benefits the traveling and tourism industry in those countries, but also benefits Australia, because more people can actually come to Australia and also visit our beautiful places and enjoy um, the Australian culture. So it's very positive for the sector, and I think it is an extremely good way forward for our industry. It may lead to new tourism destinations even. If the bubbles are open with countries that are usually not on the top of the list for tourism, or are not um, as advertised as, for example, others that may be always on the tourism postcards, it may lead to other tourism destinations to be discovered. And of course, it will be a plus for everyone. You can discover new places, enjoy yourself, and help the economy of those places. So it's also a very important thing. However, if it's not done properly, it may derail all the efforts that we've been um, trying and we've been having so far in order to get these bubbles going and get these things done. For example, if the travelers are not fully vaccinated, as I said, the risk of contamination or the risk of infection is still high, and obviously it may derail things. For example, in Australia at the moment we have 3 states in lockdown, including Sydney, Perth, and also Darwin. And of course, once a lockdown is declared in a specific place, the bubbles will be shut with that particular place. So there's no flights at the moment from New Zealand to Sydney, Darwin, or Perth, because obviously we are in lockdown and we have a, a outbreak, and we need to deal with that first. So if it's not done properly and safety measures are not put in place, it may derail the whole thing. If quarantine arrangements are not put in place, it also may derail things, because obviously you need to have a quarantine system. Even if people are vaccinated, there still need to be a safeguard that if, for example, if people still get infected, or if something goes wrong, we still need to have a plan B. And I think that's very important. Establish a plan B if something goes wrong with the main plan. And of course, the main important thing, and the one that has been a problem since the beginning is people adhering the rules, people respecting the rules, because it's been a constant since the beginning of this pandemic that rules are set up, authorities set up these rules, and people still don't obey them, and problems arise from that. So if we all do our bit, and if we all follow these rules, I think we may be out of this issue way earlier than expected, and we may actually succeed with these bubbles. And that's all for today. I hope you really enjoyed our first meeting of July, the return of the aviation talks. And I hope you really enjoyed these travel bubbles. I hope it's a possibility in the country of your residence. If you have any questions, or if you have any suggestions or any experiences that we had so far, please share. Why not? Um, put a like in a video, the algorithm, YouTube, etc. And subscribe the channel with a little click on the bell so you get a notification of a talk every week. Before I go, I would like to wish you all a very good week. See you next time. Thank you so very much for watching. Bye.